Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. We'll be talking about this new wave of terrorism. Especially we'll be talking about the very tragic incident that took place in Lahore yesterday, close to the Punjab Assembly on the Charing Cross, where 13 precious lives, including two senior police officials, one was the SSP Lahore, the other was the DIG Traffic Lahore, they both lost their lives, other than the six soldiers of Pakistan police. Two were from the elite force, and other than that there were about 6 civilians. They all lost their lives and the death toll was pretty high. We were expecting it to go much higher, but God was kind enough. But there were a lot of people who were injured and that number was well over 100. They were taken to various hospitals, including Gangaram as well as Mayor Hospital. The rest of the hospitals were put on high alert as well. But unfortunately, I'll also repeat one thing here. I was watching a clip of the interview of the late DIG Traffic, and he was talking about this very unfortunate incident. He said that when people or the mob or the crowd, whosoever is protesting, they come out on the road and they especially try to go towards Mall Road to block the road so that they can register their protest, they become so vulnerable that for any suicidal bomber, it is very easy to penetrate in them. And this is exactly what happened. Earlier there were reports that maybe there was the bomb was planted or maybe there was a scar, but eventually now what we have witnessed so far after almost 26 hours, that there was this young boy who was wearing shalwar kameez, was carrying around 8 to 10 kgs of explosive, who exactly went up to the officers and he blew himself. And there was this DSNG of Aaj television right there, and luckily it was there, otherwise the casualties could have been much higher. But unfortunately, the boys who were working for Aaj television and those who were present, the technical staff in DSNG, they were also injured. But again, a very, very unfortunate incident. At the same time, having said that, on the 7th of February, the NACTA did report that there could be a similar attack in Lahore in particular. The idea was to sabotage the final of PSL. A lot of people say that. Then again, today, the naval exercise, the Aman, was concluded in Karachi, in which other than Pakistan, 36 countries were participating, in which USA was there, UK was there, France was there, China was there, Russia was there, Turkey was there, and out of those 36, 9 of them actually brought in their assets also. So that was a very wrong message sent across. And then we talk about declaring Pakistan as a state which is not stable for some reason. I think this is the agenda of Narendra Modi. He'll be visiting USA on the special invitation of the newly elected president of USA, Donald Trump. And interestingly now, he is trying to gather as much possible as he can and present and again malign Pakistan. A couple of other interviews which were given by Mr. Donald Trump regarding Pakistan, he doesn't have good views about this country in general. Though he says that we're monitoring the situation in Pakistan very closely, but we'll use India to tackle Pakistan. Now, what is that supposed to mean? Other than that, recently Hikmatyar also joined hands with the government of Afghanistan to take forward this process of peaceful dialogue. But having said that, one more important point before I introduce my panelists here, that Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, supported by Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan and certain other intelligence agencies. The main man is Mullah Fazlullah, who is hiding in Afghanistan, and there were small different factions. For example, Shariar Masood was one group, Sajna, then you talk about Khurasani. These were actually having problems amongst themselves and they were fighting, but now they are all together. And there was a statement issued by the Tehreek-e-Ihrar that they'll be conducting attacks not only on the hard targets like the military installations, but also on soft targets like schools, on hospitals, and on public gatherings and even markets. They call this Operation Ghazi, named after that religious cleric who was killed during Musharraf's time in Lal Mosque. Now, where is it leading? What exactly is going to happen? Because we were very sure that post this Operation Zarwiyah, things will be in control. But the military has done its duty. They have cleared the areas. Now, what? Let me introduce you to our panelists. On my right is Aqab. Malik Saab. Malik Saab is a senior analyst, is a professor. So thank you very much. We have with us Brigadier Retired Syed Nazir Sahab, a defense analyst. Sir, thank you very much. And we have with us Shaukat Piracha Sahab, again, needs to introduction as a senior journalist, as an anchor person. So thank you very much. First of all, Aqab, we all thought that post-Zarbiaz things would be in control, and things were very much in control. And then we witnessed there was this attack on the FC. 3 Jawans got martyred. Then yesterday, while defusing the bomb, there was another explosion in which 2 very, I would say, very precious lives, because those were very talented people who defused the bombs, they got martyred. 3 Jawans embraced Shahadat, those who were injured in Bhimber because of the unprovoked firing from the Indian side. And then this particular incident takes place in which 13 precious lives, including 6 Jawans and 2 very senior officers. One was the DIG, Traffic Lahore, who was actually negotiating and talking to those protesters at that particular moment when this blast took place, and the other was SSP Lahore, sir. How do you see this?
I think you have to look at the context of the of the operation Zarbiaz. It was to clear the different agencies, especially in North Waziristan. But many, as we know, of the Taliban and these different terrorist groups and the foreign terrorist groups went into Afghanistan and now holed up there in some of the different provinces on eastern Afghanistan. And it's well known that the Afghan government knows a lot about this, but is not doing anything about it, really, in real terms, nor are the Americans, unfortunately. Now we can look at the wider geostrategic picture and try to understand what they're trying to do with Pakistan. These are, it seems, I don't want to trivialize the situation, given that certain precious lives, and every life is precious, has been lost, and everything that we've lost here, the thousands of lives, every single one is important. But the bigger picture at play here is much greater, and I find that given the current rise of China and our association with them, for our economic benefit, to rise as a country, to be part of the larger community of nations and contribute, be a pivot of that, is being maligned by our neighbors, especially India. And they're trying to do everything possible to undermine that. And as you mentioned, Donald Trump, the new president of the United States, hasn't got good views. I've heard of his interviews, some of the interviews where he says, I love Pakistan, but these are out of context, really. Or the other ones, when he talks about Pakistan, he talks about our nuclear arsenal as if we're going to use it in any other context, which we are not. Our nuclear arsenal, for example, is specific to India and only that, because of the threat that India poses to us. It was as a deterrence. But that's been undermined consistently in Washington and in Hollywood, for example, with films against Pakistan in the recent past. And the whole perception is changing, to change the perception of the United States, the population there, which has become quite radical. It's quite frightening if you think about what's happening in the US and in Europe, the populism that's coming about in large parts of the world, in the Western world, as a reaction to what's been going on in the world. But that also means there's a lack of control. And that's frightening, is that the world order is changing. And given that the most powerful person on the earth right now, being Donald Trump, is in power, I'm quite skeptical about what's going to happen, and my hope generally of the world is going elsewhere. That being the context, I remember when I said that Zarbiaz was a successful operation, and it's very successful. But what it did was also push people out and moved a lot of the militants into the cities. If I can make a comparison, I know that it may not be proper to make this comparison, but I'm going to make it anyway, is that when the United States disbanded the Iraqi army and fought against the Sunni insurgents in the beginning, in the noughties, 2006-07, for example, they went into the cities, and their pre-plan was to have urban warfare. And a lot of these associations are there as well now through ISIS. And that's how they gained precedence. They kept and continued, use a different name, but the people were the same, essentially. And they utilized the aspect of urban warfare to encourage all the masses that were against the government at that time and against the occupation of the US.
All right.
There may be a certain parallel here where the insurgents or the terrorists come into the cities, formulate themselves, go underground, build themselves up, and come out as...
That's exactly what has happened. But yes, sir, if you look at the operation that was launched on Afghanistan exactly 16 years ago, in 2001, in October, then we heard about the Tora Bora bombing, and everybody thought that this Taliban is history now. They will be, I mean, you can't even think that they'll be alive. So they came out, they fought back, and they resisted. And again, I mean, whatever the Americans did, I mean, they spent over 3 trillion in Iraq, couldn't achieve the objectives. Spent more money in Afghanistan for that matter. One of the most expensive wars that the Americans have ever fought. Now, my point is, sir, when you look at these different splinter groups, earlier they were fighting amongst themselves, but now they're getting united. The element of IS is there, the element of Al-Qaeda is there. Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan does exist, though they could have issues with the IS. But TTP is joining hands, and these little factions which I was naming earlier, whether it's the Sharia Masood group or Sajna group or Khorasan for that matter, or other small splinter groups, against a certain, for a certain narrative and against a certain narrative. How do you see that equation, the building up, sir?
Yes, of course, in such like situation, once you mentioned the 9/11 and then the American coming to this area with a lot of carpet bombing, and especially the Tora Bora, Dizzy Cutter and all that.
Bunker busters and you name it, and they tried every weapon there.
Yes, that was a laboratory.
Absolutely.
And they used every sort of weapon which were in their sinews. And they used it very indiscriminately. Of course, the Taliban survived. So, insurgency or this sort of sub-conventional war has got something different facet than the conventional war. Well, America may be, or for that matter, any big power may be having a lot of armada, a lot of nuclear power, a lot of conventional forces, a lot of marines, and sophisticated weapon system. But what comes to the ground, and the ground is in favor of the insurgency, and it goes then into the urban areas, of course, then it changes its dimension a lot. And that dimension is really nerve-wracking for the reason that will we have fought this war better than any of the allies, any of the world largest war machine, that is the NATO. For the reason they conducted a very trumpet and a very propagated merge operation. And what they got out of the merge operation with all that air force, all that marines, all that forces which were there for 48 countries, probably 65 Taliban dead. And that's all. And remaining just vanished into the thin air. Whereas Pakistan conducted this Operation Zarb-e-Azam, which on many counts has paid the rich dividends in the form of peace, in the form of the people confidence, and in the form of the crust of the ground has been cleared. But now, who is operating and who are behind them? That is the sleeping cells, that is the foreign hand, that is the facilitators, and those are those elements which may pop up from the ground, from the urban areas.
There were reports that there is about a dozen youngsters as old as 11 or 12 years in that age group who have been prepared for suicidal bombing, sir. Do you think we can expect more suicidal bombers to come and blow themselves up in various institutes, like could be a school, could be a marketplace, or could be a hospital for that matter, sir? I'm talking about easy, soft targets.
Yes, of course, this type of recruitment has been shown on the social media as well. There are girls as well as the boys are very, you can say, 7 or 8 years of age, which has been inducted, and they are being given training in one of the
So
province.
they're brainwashed for a few years, and then once they're ready, they're launched. Yes.
They are going for a long haul. What is one of the
so obviously, sir, they have a plan. They have a plan, they have a design.
And more so, who has done this syndication of the groups which you named in your intro? Of course, there is a syndication in that. And this syndication cannot be done automatically unless there is a foreign power, a very powerful agency.
So when you talk about money, when you talk about constant supply of weapon, when you talk about training, when you're talking about giving the certain instructions, and then obviously you're talking about obtaining certain objectives also. So there is a mind working somewhere. It could be Kabul, it could be Washington, it could be Pentagon, it could be It could be New
On the
Delhi.
larger,
For that
larger
matter, yes.
canvas, yes, on
All
the
right.
larger canvas, look at this particular attack.
And now-
it was
now-
so meticulously done, and it was rigged. It was the time and space, of course.
Then Nazim
it was
Sethi and
to the
Shahryar Sahib
strategic
had to come out and
advantage.
say, well, you know, whether the foreigners play or not, we'll make sure that PSL's final takes place in Lahore. So primarily,
Yes, that
this
was
was
the
another area. And earlier mentioned, I mean, the 36 countries who were conducting the naval exercise in the Indian Ocean. Obviously, they got a message too. But now, perhaps a couple of points. First of all, please to inform us about the overall composition of various factions who are still present in one form or the other. Could be Shahryar Masood, could be Khorasan, could be Said Sajna. Getting under one umbrella. They all had differences. Now they're getting under one umbrella, and obviously somebody very strong is holding the umbrella with lots of power, lots of money, lots of weapon, lots of support, lots of dollars. Because you know, out there you might find Pakistani currency could be bounced back, but dollar is going to be accepted. Razab?
Well, you know, let's talk something else. because if we do not accept that these people are from within us, then there is no need of any debate, you know. I mean, Pakistan is fighting against
One is from
these,
Mumbai, one is from
no,
other
let
areas.
me complete, you know. Pakistan is fighting against these terrorists when there was no Modi government in India. General Musharraf was having very good relation with Manmohan Singh and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the bilateral dialogue was very smoothly moving forward. And Pakistan was fighting against terrorists when George Bush was hand in hand with General Pervez Musharraf, and we were a non-NATO major ally. Then who was conspiring? You see, Darbe are very good. We just finished their communication structure, their strongholds. But what about all the streets in Pakistan, wherever you go, there are symbols of these people? And why combing operation was launched? Because of this threat that
Absolutely.
they have, as Brigadier Saab and Dr. Saab, they are very rightly pointing out that they have moved to urban centers. But who they are? Are they Indians? Are they Americans? Are they Afghans? You can say that their agencies are funding them. You can say Kulbhushan Yadav confession and his arrest is one thing to point there. But they have been here. They are from this land. Why there is a disconnect that we are chasing them and they are not chaseable? Look at this incident you are talking of, yesterday's very sad incident. There was warning.
Yes, threat alert was
in
issued
the
on 7th.
third week of December, and second, you know, that was on 7th of February. Should I say that my intelligence agencies, our intelligence agencies or Pakistan's intelligence agencies, they failed? No. They sent a clear warning to you that an unidentified terror group has planned suicide attack in Lahore. Then why we were so careless, I should say. Our attitude is still not so conscious as it should have been, as was in Sri Lanka.
You think the government took it lightly, sir?
Obviously. I mean, yesterday when this bomb, you know, this suicide struck against senior police officials and they got martyrdom, or the security officials, Jawans in Quetta, they got martyrdom. There was debate going on in the Senate of Pakistan, and one of the honorable members, they were saying that some people they are spared and other people they are not spared. Why there is this still, you know, good or bad discrimination going on in Pakistan? This state of Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, the people of Pakistan, the country called Pakistan, they have to take a decision. We are in that direction. There is no doubt.
We have already taken a decision. We exactly know. There are no more grey areas, are there?
I wish you would have been in the Senate yesterday and you would have heard this, you know. You would have heard yourself. If that be the case, as you are saying, the other side should come and tell that it's absolutely wrong, that it's not the case. It's the Parliament of Pakistan. I said honorable parliamentarians were talking of. I say we are to that direction, there is no doubt. But when we put our first step to this direction, look at the blood back on this journey, look at the dead bodies back on this journey, look at the losses that we suffered for putting this step forward to this direction, and still we are waiting that maybe we should go there or we should not go there.
Monster, has it gone too big, sir, out of control?
I don't think. You know, Pakistan military is such a brave military that it has broken the myth of invincibility of Waziristan. Even the British army could not operate there, could not go there, could not, move in the areas where Pakistan military is moving. Should I say that these people are out of control? No. Should I presume that Pakistan military cannot fight against them? The day if I am convinced, what's left in this country, or if you are convinced that the monster has grown, so big that the military armed forces
The
of
monster is
Pakistan.
unfortunately supported by so many elements within Pakistan. That is another problem.
That is the problem that I am talking of. Exactly, I am talking of this issue. That it has been after 2013 maybe, when Darb-e-Azb was launched, that a consensus, national consensus was forged. Look at the scenario before 2013. Even in your show, so many people used to sit and eulogize these people that they are fighting for a cause. What cause? Cause for Captain Mubin? Cause for Major General Sanaullah? Cause for example, Captain Asfan Yar, who died who was martyred in Bidaber airport attack. What cause? And still there are people. If they are not loud, they have sympathies. That's exactly what I am saying, what you are saying, that these people are supported from within Pakistan.
Now tell me one thing, sir. Operation Ghazi, as they call it. And his brother is right there, about 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers away from where we are sitting. And look at what he says in his sermons. You talk about hate speech, sir. That is what the hate speech is all about. Openly having a gunman standing right behind him, sir. And then and I'm talking about Islamabad, I'm not talking about Chichu Ki Maliyan or some other place, sir. Nothing has been done so far, despite issuing a lot of statements. Once, 2 of his sons, Ghazi's sons, they were picked up by the police, and there was this weapon without the license, and you were not supposed to carry that. They were immediately released because the SHO was under extreme pressure.
Well, you look at what happened during the operation Lal Masjid many years ago, during Mashura's time, and the fallouts and the repercussions as far as the revenge attacks, for example. So it's a very sensitive issue. You can't just go willy-nilly and go into the mosque and take over again. It has to be done.
The same media was supporting Musharraf at that time, and the moment the operation took place,
but this is,
the media got against
you can't
it.
rely on the media. Media is there for sensationalism
build up the narrative.
and making money. I mean, it's owned by tycoons who want to make money, and they want hits, they want prestige, they want everything else. But they go where the wind blows. So you can't rely on the media per se. This is something we have to resolve. Is the media on the side of the country or the militants? I think that's very important. Who do they want to support? Do they want to support Pakistan to be prosperous, or they want to reduce it? So they need to get on board and have a plan together. This is what I wanted to come into. How do we resolve this issue? How do we get these people who support these militants, with many millions of them, onto our side and to make Pakistan prosperous? We need a very intense information dissemination campaign. You can call it social conditioning, you can call it what you like. The fact of the matter is we need to bring them into the country, and we need to focus on them. It's a marketing campaign by the country that needs to be done. We've not done that. We just sensationalize all the attacks. I'm happy.
Are you talking about a counter narrative that needs to be projected through the media?
And it needs to be projected everywhere, and everybody in the media must be on board, or it's against the law. Full stop. We should make it that way. Now you may say, well, that goes against media attention, that's freedom of speech, and this and the other. But then we can make it a national security issue, and it is a national security issue. It matters to us, and anybody is responsible, could be responsible. Any media could be responsible for the deaths of other people if they propagate it, or further deaths, because terrorism is all about perception, and it's a force multiplier. The media is a force multiplier, meaning 1 or 2 bombs go off, in real terms, the country is not much affected. It's how people perceive it that matters. And if you sensationalize it, it's not good for the country. It undermines the country in the eyes of the West, in the eyes of the East, in the world's eyes. And that undermines our direct foreign investment. That undermines the whole booming of the country. Everything, doesn't it? And corruption grows as a result as well. Now, so we have to make sure there are people who are controlled in that way. We're not talking about you can report this, you can have transparency, you can have all measures, checks and balances. That's very important. And accountability needs to be there, but it's not right now. I'm not talking about that, but I need to make sure, and I would like the country to make sure, that the media is also responsible, and there are a set of ethics which don't exist in the media. The media must be responsible for their actions also by sensationalizing and enhancing these attackers that are undermining this country.
Brigadier Sahab, I'm sure you've served in that area and you exactly know the terrain and everything. They believe that they've flushed them out into the Afghan soil. But at the same time, when we talk about the Afghan soil, there are sanctuaries, there are places, there are training camps, centers. And obviously, if the Americans do not know, I would say that they're the most foolish people. So simple as that. They know exactly what is going on in this room if they want to try that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
My point is, sir, then what sort of an administration do they have? Now they've also asked for more troops. The number which is presently 8,400 could increase, means their long-term presence. Their long-term presence means instability in Afghanistan. That leads to problems in Pakistan and for the entire region. And if you look at the kind of engagement, recent engagement, I would say, of the Russians and the Chinese to sort out issues in Afghanistan, do you think this could be or this could become Syria at some stage? Brigadier Sahab?
Of course, because big countries, they prepare the environment of the world. They say global order. They prepare the global order so that there is a conflict. And once the conflict is there, so the developing countries' DGP sets down by 3%. And once there is a conflict, their GDP increases by about 2%. So there is a decrease and there is an increase.
And there is a very interesting phenomenon. I read an article that about it was over $3 trillion that were invested by the foreign, it was $1.2 trillion invested by the foreign countries in the developing nations, and the money they took out was 3 times more.
More. Because
this is how the economy works.
No, there is uranium, there is titanium, there is everything is going out of Afghanistan.
Even multinational corporations.
Multinational
$1 billion a year only Nestle takes from Pakistan.
So how much this defense industry is churning out the arms. You can take just the phenomena of the creation of the IS. Out of 25 top-notch leaders of IS, 17 were in the green copper camp, and including their leader al-Baghdadi. Beside that, IS in the history is holding two countries, almost more than about 3 to 4 provinces, and selling oils and having the sophisticated weapon system and fighting within 3 months. 16,000 people gets around from almost 47 countries, and they fight under one agenda, one flag, and one place. This is strange phenomena which are taking
worth $1 billion
place.
as well.
Yes.
And God knows from where.
More so, one thing more interesting. Pakistan is in the eye of the storm, as well as there are footprints of the IS. In Afghanistan, they are very active, fighting. In Iraq, they are fighting. In Syria, they are fighting. In Turkey, they are fighting. But there is one country, Iran. I don't say that they should fight there, but it is safe. Probably on the back burner. On the front burner, these countries are there. The other number will come once the heat will be taken to the rear burner, back burners. This is another phenomena which is developing. Third, that why this war is not being finished, because America has almost more than $1 trillion and almost about more than 3,000 body bags. But at the same time, they have previously a surge under Mike Crystal. But if they want to do a surge again, so this surge is really against the Taliban. This surge is really against the militants. No, this surge is against this giant, this economic giant, which is coming to the hot water and developing this corridor.
So you think that is the larger picture?
The larger picture.
So primarily,
Of course.
Prasad, if you look, okay, the macro environmental factors we can't control, we're a small country. But unfortunately, sir, we have always been a part of that big game. Whether you talk about what happened in the Cold War, thank God we were not placed somewhere in Latin America, otherwise we would have done something worse than Cuba. But what I'm saying is, sir, the Cold War between the Russians and the Americans, and we were a part. And we played a part in which we practically broke Russia into pieces, creating Taliban or whatever we did. But we were lucky we were able to make our atomic setup at that time. Now again, sir, if there's a problem or there's a rift between the Chinese and the Americans or the West world, sir, so we are neglecting Afghanistan and we are picking up the Chinese and the Russians and, making them sit in Moscow and telling them, okay, now what do you guys want? So don't you think we are playing games beyond our capacity? Just like me, start fighting with the sumo wrestlers, sir, and expect to win.
No, you could do.
I mean, it's not your choice. It's not our choice.
Yes.
It is basically the compulsion of your geopolitical or geostrategic location. That's why either we are picked up or we jumped into, and we been doing both. Sometimes we needed legitimacy because there was no legitimacy inside the country. You were fighting against your own people, and you sought legitimacy in case of Ziaul-Haq and General Musharraf. And sometimes you really wanted, in case of 50s, that a newly born country having a mighty enemy, on your eastern border, and you were in quest of security, and you had then CETO and bilateral, defense agreement with the United States. However, when now you compare 50s or 80s or early this century with this situation now, primarily it's so far it is not a kind of security arrangement. It's purely economic kind of thing. You are talking of corridor. Yes, there is problem between China and United States, but I cannot say it's so far a Cold War like between erstwhile Soviet Union and the United States, because that was a war between two blocks, two ideologies. What China is doing, it's also following the same capitalist economy now, capitalist philosophy now, that they are all investment they are having within mainland China, and then they are having trade. But this trade and economic relationship is not, cannot be a parallel of conquering the countries, like Soviet Union occupying Hungary, rushing its tanks, or then intervening into Afghanistan. This economic war or financial war, and mostly on the basis of new blocks, that is basically the modern age of international diplomacy.
Do we fit in this new block, by the way?
Again, the geography, again geopolitics, geostrategy. You can be, if we been little wise in the past, we could have been a corridor between two parts of the world, the western and the east.
Absolutely.
Starting from, for example, Indonesia or Malaysia or any part of the Far East, Pakistan is the only natural route to the west. There cannot be any route.
Absolutely.
You cannot cross over Himalayas and then go to China, and from China to Central Asia. The natural route between two parts of the world, what we call east and the west, that lies through Pakistan. That Pakistan
either by sea or by road even.
Any way, by road I am talking of, by sea I am talking of, So, and now today, when we say that, or someone says that we again joining the blocks, world is in transition. There is emergence of new alignments. I never thought that one day Washington will be so close to Delhi and we will be looking towards Moscow. I could never thought in my life. But look now, for the settlement of Afghanistan, now we are having trilaterals between China, Pakistan and the Russian, that was held in Moscow recently.
Yes.
So, this realignment of the powers or the countries, I must say, because we not big power as compared to these global powers, but still a nuclear country having strategic location, and then sometimes the alignment imposed upon us and sometimes our own choice. We are part of the world, and it is good thing. I mean, we are not in isolation like some other countries in the region and beyond. We are part of the world. The problem is this realignment. The problem is consistent problem of Afghanistan, that for 40 years the poor Afghan people, they have been witnessing bloodshed and fight and insurgency. But one day one can hope that this will be over, and transition of the world projection, world priorities from geostrategic to this economic and trade, that should be a prize for Pakistan. That I am again saying that Pakistan is the only natural route between east and the west. There is no other option. So, by road they have opened a Teresica route called from Western Europe to Central Asia, and then it can go to anywhere. The problem is that the disputes in this part of the world, they need resolution, whether it is a Kashmir dispute, it is a Afghan problem. If peace and tranquility can come to these spots which are flashpoints in the world of today, then
these issues need to be taken care of. I mean, I think you can't move forward. I mean, if you want a peaceful solution, certain strong measures are immediately needed. One more point, sir. When you look at the recent developments, when you talk about the strategic contracts or the alliances, especially between the United States of America and India, I also read an article that they not only plan to buy F-16s, they plan to start assembling F-16s in India.
Yes.
There is another Swedish company that has also offered them to develop high-tech jet fighters. You're talking about every other deal which the Narendra Modi's government is sort of doing with the Western world. They want a certain percent of share, they want the transfer of technology, they want, I mean, recent development as far as the defense pact is concerned. Forget about the NSC membership or certain other benefits, or even being the member of the Security Council. What I'm saying is, the reality is every sixth man in the world is an Indian. They have a very strong lobby in the West, and in particular in the United States of America. And now the kind of attitude Trump has towards them, the kind of, just imagine the phone call which was made to Narendra Modi and asked him to visit on ASAP basis. So obviously they have certain designs, and he has been very categorical, he's been very straight, and he said that I would use India to sort out, you don't sort out things, you know what sorting out means. It's a very military term, sir.
But he's not a military man.
By the way, so. He is not a military man, he is not a politician, but he is the President of America.
He is a president, but
that's the reality.
But by foremost, he's a businessman. So what he says, you can't take literally. It's important to understand that. He's not a military man, he's not a diplomat by far. He's a businessman. And
he's got a dozen advisors.
But that may well, but he is a Republicans. But he is a businessman. He's not a security expert, so he relies on other people to give him input. But it's his mind that makes the decisions at the end as well. Although the whole establishment is there to guide it in a particular way, and that establishment is going in a particular direction. When it comes to India, it's not Pakistan-centric completely as well, by the way. They want to be a larger power. We constrain that. That's why the problem lies with the Indians. We constrain their rise. But we want equality. We want to be recognized as a nation in our own right with them. And then let's get on with the world. Let's get on with work. Let's share and work together. We're not going to stop them from getting increasing, but it's detrimental to our interests that they go too big as well because of the past history we've had with them. And they've been an invasive nation, detrimental to our interests and aggressive to us. And they've helped damage us. And that's their intention from the beginning. So we've got to be very careful with India. Having said that, we also must recognize that they're a much larger nation. They have other aspirations, in the region at least, if not internationally. Although there are many Indians think they're going to be a global superpower, which is not going to occur. But within this region, They have many aspirations, and they're linked in more so with the United States, thinking that they can accomplish that. Their main threat is Pakistan and China then, to constrain that expansion, yeah, but especially China. And that's where the Americans are also afraid of, the containment of that. But when we look at that, and I understand it is a threat to us, but we have to look at the larger picture as well. We're not alone in this. India threatens other countries in its expansion and in military aggression. In 2027, they've envisaged the expansion of its own navy to 200 ships, warships, with very high technology weapon systems, which they want to import.
And they can achieve that.
And they can because they're making money. This is where we were very late in the boats as well.
We've been late in most of the cases,
in many things, so we need to get an act on it. And we are in the right place right now. We're working towards that direction. Don't think we won't be undermined.
No, we were very happy that we made JF-15 Thunders and we were making fun
But
of
that's all
for the
well
last
and
40
good.
years they're trying to make one, but the point is that in the future, it's all about technology, sir. All it takes is... It's
But that technological revolution is changing
somewhere.
everything. Exponential technologies are changing everything. But also artificial intelligence, genetic and engineering, everything. Everything. And we're right at the bottom of the list in this.
That's
and
correct.
we need
That's
to
correct.
reprioritize ourselves.
Closing comments, sir.
Yes, first, India has been milking USSR in the Cold War era. And now it's the time for them to milk the American cow. Because they don't slaughter the cow, they milk it. And that's what they are doing. But probably Americans are sadly mistaken that India is capable to contain China.
Giving larger role
One.
to India and
Second thing is
Afghanistan and Indians accepting that offer, will that be a wise approach by them?
They'll lose. Badly.
Of course, that will be, I suppose, a heyday for the Taliban if the Indian troops or their boots are there in Afghanistan. But they will never commit that mistake. Second, if they are thinking of the Indian Ocean, of course, they were becoming a threat to, especially to the energy of China and Far East. But now, once this economic corridor is coming, so that lands.
So everything is about CPEC at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Piracha Sahab, your take, sir.
No, certainly, CPEC is a fate changer. There should not be any doubt, and we as a nation must rather strive for successful completion of this project. And then, this project to me is not only a project of prosperity, but I do believe that this will also bring peace to this region, because so much will be interdependent among so many nations. China, for example, has trade and massive trade, foreign trade with all countries of the world. Look at Brazil, far off country. 3 years back, they had $56 billion bilateral trade.
Venezuela.
Look at its trade with the United States and with the EU, European Union. This corridor will save time, money, transportation cost of all the trading partners, be in the European Union,
They'll be more competitive.
More competitive.
Safe passage.
So this interdependence of the European Union, of the North American or the South Americans on this corridor will itself guarantee for peace, not for conflict in this region. That's how I see it's a project of prosperity, economic development, along with peace dividend it will have.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Piracha Sahab, was a pleasure. Sir, thank you so much. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz.